Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Triathlon, the podcast where these two guys get together to talk about the sport of triathlon. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by none other than James Bale with a put-in hat on his head. Jimbo, how you going, mate?
I'm good, mate. Merry fucking Christmas.
Oh, Merry Christmas indeed.
We
This is
made it.
we certainly did, and we have had a jam-packed couple of days of podcasting because, as we said last week, so everybody knows we are taking 3 weeks off the regular podcast. So this will be the last episode for 2023. But we recorded three bonus episodes yesterday that are going to go out to our patrons. So if you want one episode a week for every week that we are off the air. So if you want to keep the podcast content going, you guys know where to go. But yes, we are here. It is the last episode. It is a good episode, Jimbo. We are doing our year review and then some awards that we like to give. We didn't do it last year for some reason, but before all
Did
that,
we
mate,
not?
we
Did we
didn't.
not?
We didn't. I don't think we did
What
last year.
happened to us?
I think you were too cool for school, and I went, well, I don't want to bother, I don't want to bother cool boy James Bale. So I don't know, to be honest. I think we just ran out of time or forgot, falling on
Strange.
us.
It's a bit of a tradition, isn't it? I'm sure we did it last
I
year.
don't think we did it last year. I know we did it the preceding years because we always cop shit for the the Lionel Award, which is back this year. Don't worry, we will. You can't beat us down. We'll keep going. But yeah, mate, how are things? How are you looking for Christmas? You excited to have a couple of weeks off? All that good stuff.
I'm looking forward to it, mate. It kicks off tomorrow in my world. Tomorrow is the start of the Christmas do's. I'm going out for dinner tomorrow night, and then I'm straight on a train the next morning to Bristol, where I'm going out for an afternoon and then a dinner with some more people, and then back on Friday for another night out. So it's the Christmas the Christmas roll has begun. But I'm gonna kick it all off tonight, as is traditional on the last podcast of the year, by joining you for a beer.
Yeah.
But you're not going to join me for, are you? Because it's what, 7 o'clock in the
Seven
morning?
7 o'clock in the morning. So I mean, I would love to, but I'm also I actually have a big race coming up at the end of January. So I'm since I got back from Europe, I have actually no, that's a lie. Since I got back from Malibu Super League, where I did a bit of a number on myself, I've really pulled back the drinking a lot. So I'm only having a couple of drinks a week, if at all now. But mate, cheers, Merry Christmas. I've got my
Merry
empty
Christmas,
coffee cup,
motherfucker.
all that stuff. Before we get into the, I guess, year review and things like that, obviously this podcast is Talking Triathlon. If you enjoy the podcast, want to support us, head to patreon.com/Talking Triathlon. We've got a WhatsApp group, got a Facebook group. And as I said, we've got those bonus episodes that are coming out over Christmas. I don't normally give out the personal shout outs, but I'd love to welcome back is Jared Hubbard, a friend of both of ours. Jared, who is looking to make a bit of a return to
No
triathlon.
way.
He signed up for
Is
the
he a
Patreon this week.
patron?
He's a Patreon. So
Mate,
uh,
welcome back. Oh
the
boy, it's been a
The Hubbard
while.
himself. So he's back. So Jared, thank you for joining the Patreon. But thank you to everybody. Again, we really appreciate it. And we give a bit of a Christmas message and stuff. But the three episodes we recorded, one was about sponsorship because we both work in sponsorship. Then we do one around whether we think the athletes should unionize, I guess you'd say, or strike or something like that. And the third one is about the things we're excited about for the future of triathlon. So one episode every week will come out for our patrons on the patron feed. But yeah, that is all that stuff, Jimbo. Before we get to the wrap stuff, some races happen over the weekend. Some actually incredible racing happened over the weekend with two big ones, and then a third one I don't know so much about. But the one I want to start with is Bahrain 70.3, the Middle Eastern Championships, a race I'd planned to attend but did not. Now, I'm not sure how closely you followed the race if at all, but I mean, I know the results off the top of my head, but have you seen the results? Are you familiar with what happened?
Yeah, I have now. Where do you want to start with, the men's pros or the female pros?
Let's go with the female pros. I think that's a great place to start because, I mean, to be honest, I've said a few different episodes now, but the strength of fields and the racing we're seeing in December this year is unlike anything I've ever seen before. Like, these races we normally get one or two stars and the racing is okay, but I think both Taupo, which we'll talk about, and Bahrain, we just saw not only great fields, but great racing. And that women's race, was a real banger. It had everything. So, I mean, do we just go to the podium and then sort of talk about how the races unfolded or?
Yeah, yeah. So in first place we had Kat Matthews, second place Amelia Watkinson, and in third place, is it Chloe? Caroline Pole.
Caroline Pole from Germany.
Don't know why.
Now,
Don't know why. Yeah, don't know why I thought it was Chloe.
this
Apologies.
race to me was so
Caroline.
exciting because you had the likes of obviously Kat Matthews, Amelia. We also had Ellie Solhouse was there. We had Lucy Buckingham was there. You know, great field. But the actual racing, sorry, we also had Emil Holmes' sister was there. Some real bike powerhouse and a few short course athletes that were sort of stepping up to sort of dabble. And the way the race unfolded was just legendary, mate, where you had, Lucy sort of make the break in the swim, which we know she'll do. She's such a good swimmer. And then those strong bikes like Kat Matthews and Amelia sort of ride through and get off the bike with a bit of a gap. And Kat and Amelia ran through the field. Lucy Buckingham got taken out by a car just before transition, which is,
Oh no.
terrible. So again, I've seen she's got some scans, but I hope that she's okay. But then you had Kat sort of, put in this surge sort of halfway through the race to sort of secure the lead, and then Amelia just sort of chipping into her. So, like, again, not a broadcast race. I wish it was, but following it on the tracker and having people messaging us and our WhatsApp group was going. From all accounts, really, really exciting, racing and fast times. People always question the legitimacy of the courses in Bahrain. Check out the Strava. We're talking about a fully legit 1.9, 90, 21K course, but just fantastic, mate. Like, again, you couldn't really ask for more in terms of a sort of exciting race. And
An actual race. I mean, it's a race we've both competed in ourselves over the years, and it is, like you say, it's a race distance that is questioned frequently, but we've both done it. We've both, got our own GPS files, and you look at people's Stravas. That's a legitimate course, and it was a race this year, wasn't it? Like you say,
mm,
with a dynamic that played throughout the women's field, and who was going to win, you didn't know until, you know, partway through the run, almost towards the end of the run, really, because you never know what's going to happen. But good to see Kat winning after the years that
yeah.
she's had. And I was particularly happy to see Ellie Salthouse do quite well and finish in fourth.
Yeah, I think for me, and I mean, just no, like Amelia is one of my clients, and Amelia, who I've said this a lot, both publicly and privately, I think is one of the most underrated athletes still in the sport. Top 10 finishes at world champs. She was fourth in Singapore. She's always up there or thereabouts. And again, while not a win, I still think a second place against an athlete like Kat Matthews to do it the way that she did it was exceptional. You're right, Kat, the year that she's had, we're both huge fans of Kat Matthews, everything she's done. And again, put the crash stuff to one side because I think no, that's not a comeback, but Kat is such a class athlete and she has had a sort of up and down year in terms of we know that Kona wasn't great for her. We know that World Long Distance Champs wasn't great for her, but then she's had some really shining moments like Texas, second place at 70.3 Worlds. But this one is just, it's fantastic to see at a championship race. So again, and Kat just has that run strength, right? Like I think I don't know why we keep doing it because we know how good she is, but she's such a good, just a well-rounded athlete these days. Like her swim weakness isn't there that much anymore. She's such a strong biker. She's such a strong runner. She's dangerous in any race that she lines up at. So fantastic, fantastic racing from the women in Bahrain. But the men, mate.
The men's side of things. Yeah, on the men's side, we had Martin Van Riel took the win with Henry Schoeman in second and Max Stapley, friend of the podcast, Max Stapley in third place. Come on, Max, you can do better than that, son.
Again, we worked out the stats, and after the race, I was doing some mad checking with Max. Third fastest 70.3 debut in history. The only two people who've gone faster are Pierre Lecour in Dubai and Casper Stornes in Bahrain, I think. But yeah, like all three of them. I mean, Martin Van Riel is my favorite middle distance or basically my favorite triathlete. I love
Yeah, he's a
Martin.
badass,
He's
isn't he?
so
He's a
great.
good
And
bloke.
again, another athlete that's had a rough few years. To me, he was probably never in doubt as the winner. Like he was my favorite just because like watch out world. When he starts doing those PTO events and like he is going to be so hard to beat. He is such a strong, well-rounded athlete. And again, this is off the back of, some serious injuries. Fantastic. Alistair Brownlee was there as well. We had Emil Holm, Dan Dixon, a bunch of short course guys were doing this race as a bit of a test. But to me, three incredible performance on the podium. Henry Schoeman, this is Henry's first like real well put together 70.3. And again, Henry and Max are my clients, but I know Henry really well. And I know that he's had a bit of hesitancy around the middle distance. And he did this one. He's like, fuck, this is the best thing ever. I need to do more 70.3. I'm like, yes, mate, yes, you do. And again, one of the fastest, times ever done. Henry, is going to be very dangerous at this middle distance. And again, sub 2 hour bike. From all accounts, it was again, we know it's a legitimate bike course. There was minimal drafting. I think they were riding as groups. We had Ali and Martin sort of drop the group, I think. But just three performances. Max as well. Max has had a rough year getting, sort of denied funding by the British Federation, and we're just getting an Olympic slot. I think he's realizing now as well that his future lays probably in this middle distance and long distance racing. And again, so many positives. Dan Dixon was right up there too. Dan's another guy. You guys want to follow a character of the sport. Dan Dixon and Emil Holm are two to absolutely watch out for. But
What
yeah,
happened to Brownlee? Why hasn't he got a run time?
so I think publicly he's put out a puncture, that he had a puncture. I've heard whispers that he had an injury leading into the race anyway, so was never going to run, which is
Doesn't surprise me.
seriously concerning though. Like if he's injured again, fucking hell, man. Like this poor guy, because we've seen him sort of, he had the surgery, I think, and then he came back and a series of like didn't win those challenge races. I don't think he won any of them, but he was always up on the podium. Uh, I honestly don't know what the future holds for Alistair Brownlee. I assume we're going to keep seeing him racing, but it's not awesome. I
No,
hope,
it's not. It's getting to the point now where it's kind of like,
yeah,
what are you doing to yourself?
yeah,
What
yeah.
this is too regular that it's like, well, I don't even get excited anymore when I see him on a start list.
I was about to say like famous last words because the last time I did this with an athlete was Daniela Ryf, and then she went on and won St. George. But I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to officially say I'm going to probably stop picking Alistair as a winner when I see him
Mm.
on a start list now. And it's not because he's again, I think the most naturally talented triathlete to ever do the sport. It's just it's too consistent. There's too many injury problems and too many things that keep coming up. So uh, I'm almost, yeah. I again don't want to. If he loves it, please keep going. But it's upsetting to see him get injured as much. Again, don't know. That's just what I heard. I hope it is just a puncture. I hope we see him have an amazing year next year. But yeah, it was disappointing to see. But for me, again, Martin Van Riel was what 3:31, Henry's 3:32, and I think Max was 3:34, 3:33. Really fast, exciting race. All ran about. I think Henry and Martin both ran 70 flat. Max was 71. These are fast run times on a
Mm.
after a true like time trial course. It's not the most
Yeah, I
technical
mean,
course.
it's not a technical course, but it is a fast bike course. But it's fast in the sense that you've always got the power down.
Mm,
It's not fast in the game. There's no real free speed there unless you get an epic tailwind on the way back into town.
which we had.
But Evie, which we had, it was fucking
Still,
dreamy the year
still
we
pushed
did.
the. I ran out of gear. I was still pushing. I think
Yeah, same, same.
yeah.
Fastest bike split I've ever put down.
What
And
did
I
you
was,
do?
I think it was 2:14.
Yeah, I did 2:06, and I
Yeah.
ran out of gears on the way back.
No,
I
it was
was
2:11. Mine was 2:11.
Yeah, yeah, man. I was absolutely pushing. Phenomenal. I really, again, I
But
was
anyway,
actually,
you
yeah.
don't
Anyway,
get on a normal non-tailwind day, you don't get free speed because you're always having to push those watts. You're always having to keep that power down. So to get off the bike and be able to run fast is an impressive thing. And it's not an easy run course, is it? It's kind of monotonous and boring and
well, it's different now. Since you did it, it's different now. It's 3 laps and it's super like it's like you sort of run down this because the transition's not where it used to be. It's moved further south. But it's like a big M. So you run up and you chuck a Yui and then you go down and then you turn around and you literally run straight back up on the other side of the fence against where you just gone and then come down. So it's actually quite a compact course, which is horrible because it's so repetitive. And this is why when I talk about last year where Kristian Blummenfelt kept heckling me, is because I saw the motherfucker about 27 times because we were right next to each other. Um, but yeah, look, the big thing for me with this race as well is, and we've been saying it for years. I think a lot more people in the sport are starting to jump on board with this. That next wave of short course athletes are going to devastate the field when they come through next year. And we're seeing it. Martin, Henry, Max, Dan, Emil, these guys are all short course athletes who are coming to these races and ripping the legs off people. And I'm so here for it. Again, I love this period where you see the transition and I think, as we said a lot recently, I think we're going to see more and more of these athletes sort of mix the distances because they can do quite well at them. So, just a sign
I
of things to
tend to
come.
agree. I tend to agree. Oh boy.
The other race that happened over the weekend that I don't have as much to say about because I didn't get to follow it as closely was Taupo 70.3, the site of next year's 70.3 World Championship. So, next year's going to be slightly different because we're having a December World Champs, because the water in Lake Taupo is fucking freezing even in December. So I know they couldn't do it in September because Lake Taupo, which is the best body of water I've ever swum in my life, it's crystal clear water, fresh water. It's all melted snow, so it's just cold as fuck. So 70.3 World Champs will be in December. I'm racing. I secured my slot in 2019 somehow. Uh, But
Time's gone by, eh? A different fucking world back then, wasn't it?
I was thinking half the people who qualified in 2019 are probably not even doing the sport anymore. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but we had in the women's race was Hannah. I keep getting there's too many Hannah Wells. I think Hannah Berry is her name now. Won the race. I always get that, and there's Hannah DeVeet, which is Hayden's partner.
Yeah.
She won the
Hannah
race.
Berry,
Lottie
Lot
Williams in
Wilms,
second, and Rebecca
and
Clark in third.
Rebecca Clark in third. I'm just repeating what you're saying now.
The men's race, I know Kyle Smith won, and then I cannot remember the other two
Carl
positions on the
Smith,
podium.
Jack Moody came second, and Kurt McDonald came third.
Yeah. So again, I know that in the men's race we had Javier Gomez was there who got a puncture and a penalty. I think he said it was the first penalty of his life. Mike
What did he get a
Phillips
penalty for?
drafting. Uh,
Cheating bastard.
yeah, he doesn't. Again, I don't know. Braden Curry was also there, who we didn't really see feature. So there was a lot of, like I said, deep fields, particularly in the men's. The women's probably a bit lighter, but when you've got like Amelia racing, those Kiwis. But anyway, what was interesting is I saw Mike Phillips put up a post. Again, Mike didn't have a great race either. He's sort of struggling to return from COVID, but Mike said that there's 11 Kiwis now on the start list for Taupo next year, which is fantastic to see. We've got this extremely strong field of Kiwi athletes who have
Mm.
always we punch above their weight. Kyle Smith, you know, had the weird year where he's almost had a Gustav Eden-esque year where he also tried
Yeah, I know what
to
you
go
mean.
to the Olympics, didn't have the success, didn't make it, and he's very last minute switched back to middle distance. Where I think Kyle, like again, I cannot emphasize enough how good an athlete I think Kyle Smith is. So good to see him sort of back and performing the way he did. This Taupo course is not easy. The roads are rough. It's the 70.3 course for next year is going to be hilly. It's a tough, awesome course, which is going to be really good. But again, to see so many Kiwi athletes be able to, get on the start list for Taupo next year is great. But yeah, I'm just happy to see Kyle win. And Hannah, I think from all accounts, sort of did it quite easily. So excellent racing in Taupo. Taupo.
Yeah, dress rehearsal for what's to come. I'm looking forward to that World Championships. I have been looking forward to that World Championships in 2019.
Yeah.
It feels very, actually 2018 when they announced it. It feels very strange to have looked forward to a race for that long.
It's funny because again, so many people have come to the sport in recent years, and they say, "Oh, are you planning to qualify for Taupo?" I'm like, "I did in 2019." They're like, "What the fuck?" It's like, yeah, I know. No, I'm looking. I think 70.3 New Zealand is the same day as I'm in New Zealand in Taupo in March. I'm actually hoping to go over there and do that race because I want to.
I'll be there with you.
Excellent, fantastic,
Not racing. I'll be
yeah,
I'll be supporting a good friend of mine.
perfect. Well, that's another reason for me to go then. But the good news for you is one of my mates
This
owns
is
the
2025, yeah?
no this year, next year, 2024.
Oh no, I'm talking about 2025.
No, I want to go
Fucking a
before.
year. I'm a
I want to
year
go
ahead.
before World Champs so that I can, sort of refamiliarize myself with the course and everything. So that's my plan. But that's the races. There was also a challenge race I saw. I don't know enough about it, but I know Mark Dubrick won again. Another guy, excellent race. He beat Jackson Laundry, both of them on that RTS squad. So well done to Mark. But I don't have enough information, and we don't talk about races we don't know about on this show anymore. But that's it for racing. We have
Yep.
now come to the conclusion of the 2023 race season. No more races this year. I don't actually
It's
know.
the Triathlon Awards now, isn't it?
I think,
We need
well,
a little bit of a one of these to.
why don't we start? Oh my God. Zoom, the power you have given this man with your weird gestures, audio listeners will not know what we're talking about, is mad. But before we go to the awards, let's talk about the year that was a bit, mate, because I think it's been a very, very weird year for triathlon for
It's
so
been a
many
fucking
reasons.
strange year, isn't it? It's been a strange year because we've been building up and building up and building up this momentum over through pre-COVID, when we were so excited about 2019. And then you had through the COVID year with a bit of a dip. And then we've had this momentum build from the Norwegians, and we've had talk of domination and talk of like the sport changing entirely. And then this year's come along, and it's just been a strange kind of, I hesitate to use the word dud because we've had some amazing things, which we'll talk about in the awards, but it hasn't felt like there's been a sort of linchpin of the year or anything to really
Yeah.
focus on or hang your hat on as the year's gone by.
I think the thing when I was reflecting on this that I've noticed this year, again, upon reflection, is that we haven't had that one athlete who's dominated this year. In past
No.
years, it's been very much like Kristian Blummenfelt or Gustav Eden or Jan Frodeno or Daniela Ryf or Taylor Knibb, or like we've always sort of had these or Ash, for example, Ash Gentle won everything PTO last year. Whereas if you look at most races this year, I think in fact I'm sure the PTO men's race had a different winner at each event: Max Newman, Jan Frodeno, Kristian Blummenfelt. In the women, we had Ash Gentle won one, Taylor Knibb won one, Annie Haug won one. We had
Yeah.
different 70.3 world champions: Rico Borg and Taylor Knibb. We had Lucy Charles. We had Sam Laidlow in the men's. Like, there's short course. We had different world champions again. Uh, Super League, different champion. Like, the whole thing was just different. There wasn't one athlete who sort
Yeah.
of did everything. And
There didn't seem to be a narrative to the
mm,
year. I mean, I think that the perfect distillation of no narrative to the year is the men's 70.3 world championship winner.
yeah,
You know, that kind of summed up this year to me. Some guy I'd never fucking heard of wins what, in my opinion, is one of the most important races of the year.
yeah. But
With
not
some of
just
the names were there. It wasn't like nobody turned up.
but not even just the winner. The top 10 is the most baffling top 10. Like, gun to my head, he had said pick the top 10 or pick, like, even out of order. I don't think I would be dead, because I just didn't see it going that way. A women's race, I think, was a bit more, according to the playbook. But yeah, it's just, that's what I mean. We've seen so many things this year that have been weird. I think we expected Kristian to do better. He didn't. And he was, again, even I think we've seen Kristian really show a bit of humanity, or like he's just a human, right? Because we've seen him struggle with the return to short distance and then trying to dabble with the middle distance, and he hasn't been able to specialize, which is weird
Mm.
considering he's never really specialized. But we've
Yeah,
seen
I
him
think that
just,
race in Milwaukee where he lost to Frodeno was the most humanizing I've seen for him. You know.
I think the fact that he had to sort of just roll around and complete 70.3, well, it's pretty fucking humanizing for him too. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of like whatever.
mm,
But I mean, a race where he's really gunning for the win, and
yeah,
it meant a lot, I think, to try and beat Frodeno. And then when you saw him go off the front in that race, all of our preconceptions and our conditioning made us go, "Oh, that's probably the race done." Apart from me, I did say in the group, Frodeno will be back. Watch this space. It ain't over. A lot of people disagree with me.
not me.
It wasn't fucking over. But it does. You had that conditioning in your mind and think this could be it. This could be the move because he's just going to fuck off like he normally does. And then when he didn't, and then when he's coming back through the field on the run, and then he's cramping again, and you're like, oh, haven't seen this, haven't seen much of this.
Mm. Or even just like not really featuring at Super League, which then makes you go, yeah, I don't know. He's had a very, I love it. Again, I really love I guess the willingness to try everything. I've always loved that about Kristian. But this year, again, I think it's very different to what we've seen we do it the other way. Gustav Eden, again, off the high of highs. And we have to admit, I know that Gustav's had a rough year, losing his mother, devastating. But again, you just, and I understand the whole appeal of I want to do what I want to do. I want to pursue what I want to pursue. But I look at it and I go, I wonder if he came back to long distance. Well, we saw him attempted it in Singapore and stuff, and it didn't work. Uh, it's interesting. We talk about momentum and short memories and things. I am curious to see what we see Gustav do in the next couple of years. I don't know what we're
Hmm.
going to see. And that's weird to say, because if you had taken me back 12 months ago, you'd be like, Gustav Iden is the king of the world. Those
Yeah.
Norwegians are the most dominant two triathletes on the planet. And while a lot of people still
Yeah. Watching
think
Gustav
it,
win his Kona, in such a comfortable, cruisy fashion on that run just made me think, we're not going to see another winner of this race for some fucking time.
I don't even know if we're going to see him on the start list anytime soon. Like,
No.
and then same with the women. I watched Chelsea win last year and thought, fucking hell, if she does that, like, it's going to be very hard to beat Chelsea Sodaro. And then Annie Haug sort of, not that she came out of nowhere, but suddenly made this huge statement where she had just taken her run to another level. So it's like, well, I guess it's Annie Haug. And then it wasn't Annie, and it wasn't Chelsea. It was Lucy fucking Charles. Like,
Mm.
there's just been so many of these things, and we're going to probably get to them when we get to the awards, but so many of these things that were just, as a, I guess, pundit, whatever you want to call it, it's made it pretty tough to predict what's going to happen this year, because so many things just
And
haven't
also, I
gone
think it's made
according
it
to the
pretty
script.
tough to decide on the participants of this awards that we're going to do, our yearly awards,
Mm.
because both of us were going, What happened?
Mm.
What standout moments can I remember? Because the the worst standout moments, but it wasn't the like I said, there hasn't been a narrative that's captured me particularly throughout this year. So I haven't found myself logging these things in my brain and going, "Oh fuck, do you remember when this happened?" Or "Fuck, like remember when you thought this person was going to win, but actually then this person it wasn't. It didn't happen like that.
Yeah,
I didn't feel the intensity of the year ever really."
and I think if I had to sum up the year in like a few words, I'd say it's felt very disjointed this year. And it's probably in line with what you're saying around the narrative. But it feels, which is again not a bad thing because I'm all for options for the pros and possibility. But for the first time in a long time, it really does feel like the sport is becoming quite segmented and there's not a lot of unity. It does seem to be a lot more silos. And I don't see that getting any better. In fact, I think it's probably going to start getting worse because we've got this PTO series, which we still don't know enough details about. But we have been assured that there's good stuff coming eventually. Maybe for Christmas, we'll get, please, Sam, for
By
Christmas
text
morning.
message, personally by text message. Eh?
I'd love to wake up Christmas morning and have the announcement of the PTO series. We've got the Ironman Pro series. We've got a Challenger been making moves. We've seen so many new challenge races. And I was going to say, and I don't know, Challenge flies under the radar a lot. And we've spoken a lot about the Ironman Pro series. Challenge have had their pro bonus structure for a long time and nobody talks about it. So I don't know. Maybe we also need to get better at doing better. But Challenge are doing a lot for the pro athletes. They're the only ones who really pay appearance fees for like Roth and stuff. Challenge deserve more credit. And again, it's on us, I think, as people covering the sport to do more about challenge races because we do tend to disregard them a lot, which isn't fair. But then you've got short course, you've got Super League,
That's
you've got
not.
no, it is.
Yeah, but
You
they
know it is. We like we've like look today. We spoke about Bahrain. We spoke about Topor. There was some challenge
and then
race,
we
and we're like,
went. There was a challenge race for a while.
yeah.
But what names were in that race that drew us to cover it?
Jackson Laundry, Mark Dubrick, the only two that really jumped out at me.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. What I was about to say is, yes, it's on us to try and give challenge more coverage, but it's also on challenge to create races that have got names that draw us to them.
Yeah.
That make them part of the narrative, the lacking narrative this year. So, it's not. I'm fuck
It's
that.
not.
I'm
It's
not taking
definitely
any
not all.
blame for
I'm
that
taking
shit.
some. I'm taking some blame. I'm happy to take some blame. But I think if for me, if I
What did
reflect
you
on,
think of my evolution of man picture today?
I don't
Did you enjoy
understand
that?
why. I don't understand why I was featured in that because it's two
You were
ball guys
you
and
were
then
the you
one
were the you were the inception.
two ball
You
guys
were
and
the
then
thing
one
that had,
one man
you
with a
you were the thing that had
luscious,
crawled out of the
luscious,
primeval glue.
luscious head of hair. Yeah, it was all right. People are going to go, what the fuck are you talking about? He put a photo of me, Dave Tilbury Davis, and himself as the evolution of man, with him being the ultimate man, me being the beginner. Uh, but to me, the biggest thing this year and again, if I had to like sum up 2023 as a year, it's doping. It's unfortunately the big thing that's come up this year, and it's say it could be a positive. I'm not. I think it's a positive in some ways, but personally, it's become a massive negative for me because it's. I've always heard that analogy, right, where you look at a statue and you think this statue is fantastic, it's perfect, and then you get up close and you look at the detail and you suddenly notice some cracks, and then all you can see is the cracks. You can't appreciate the beauty of the statue anymore. That's kind of how I feel about triathlon now. Is I've always loved it. I've been a huge fan of triathlon. I watch it passionate. I follow it. We do this podcast. This I can't help now but watch it with this level of skepticism. And I've tried to get rid of it, and I can't. And I hate it because this is the year that Colin Chartier got caught, came out, said, "Yep, you caught me. I'm using EPO." And from that point on, the floodgates have opened. And we have heard
Mm.
so many stories and rumors and reports and names being named and things. And then it's just been terrible. Good because
Yeah,
we're
and
talking
I
about
got
it.
to tell you, it's. I think you've been more explicit um in the way you talk about it, about how it's affected your enjoyment of the sport. Um, I've got more of I think it's been a bit more implicit for me because
Mm,
I've just kind of wandered off.
mm,
I haven't really talked about it. I haven't said because I've been through this with cycling. I can't be fucked to be the guy that goes, "Oh, what's happening?" I didn't really affect. I've just wandered off. I found myself not watching many races this year because I've mentally checked out a little bit and gone, well, fucking hell, this is a bit of a problem. This needs sorting out, and I've got some concerns, but I'm not going to voice them or let them worry me. I've just kind of fucked off away from watching the racing,
yeah.
and uh, and hopefully we will see some things happen in the next, you know, calendar year, maybe longer, that will put some of this to bed. But yeah, like you say, it is a concern. It's something that is very upsetting that you don't want to see in a sport that you love.
Mm, exactly. Like there's just been so many performances, both men's and women's this year, where I've watched it. And in the past, the nerd boy in me would have just been like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And this year, I've just sat back and gone, really? Like that's like really? Is that are we expected to
Yeah.
believe this? And I hate it. I hate it. And it doesn't help that you've heard so many things. Again, look, we hear a lot of pros, a lot of people in the sport, a lot of anonymous people send us stuff. I guess they want us to know or talk about it. I'm not sure. We'll never talk about stuff without proof or evidence or whatever, unless you listen to our bonus episode. But I think maybe having that insider knowledge or whatever you want to call it has certainly, yeah, there's been races this year that have left me like actually depressed, like where
Mm.
I've been upset about a result because it's like, fuck, seriously, like, yeah. So that's been a really negative. And the other part as well that's been quite negative for me this year is I think I mean, I put out a tweet yesterday because Try 24/7 picked up an article about what I was talking about with Taylor Spivey last week. Is the more we're dealing with the athletes, we're realizing that there are some serious fundamental flaws with how the actual organization of the sport works. And I've always
It's
like,
an abusive relationship almost, you know.
but it's come to the fore for me this year where I'm like, I can't stand this anymore. Like, and
No.
people who listen will probably go, we're sick of you hearing Tim go on about the federations and world triathlon stuff. I can't not. Again, I am so aware of the fuckery that happens now in our sport. And there's been some specific things that have happened this year, as I've sort of touched on, where athletes have copped heat for things I've said on this podcast, where I've gone, enough's enough. And I'm actually fucking angry about it now. And it is, and I'm happy to admit it. It is impacting my ability to, like, when I talk to these pros now and stuff on the podcast, in personal, whatever, I need to know what they think about it because I'm wondering whether I'm the crazy one
Mm.
or if others are feeling the way I
Well,
feel.
I mean, you asked me today for a reel from the interview you did with Taylor Spivey,
Yeah.
and I instantly came to mind what she was saying about how she was thinking about dabbling with some 70.3 after the Olympics, but she was concerned about what the federation would think about that and whether they and that is a worrying limiter on not only the progression of an individual within the sport, but also the progression of the sport itself. Because if you've got athletes who are superstars, who are some of the fittest and most impressive people on earth, but they're worried about experimenting within their own sport and trying different distances and seeing what fits them best and what they're best at, because their federation might come down hard on them or give them sort of less preferential treatment for races or events or support, then well, that is an abusive relationship, is it not?
Yeah. And the thing as well about it, right, is because I know that a lot of people go, but what about the age group or what about the amateur? This isn't just a pro problem either. This is an amateur problem because we have heard so many fucking complaints about things that have happened in the. I'm getting fired up and I don't give a fuck. It's the last episode of the year, but we've seen some really fucked up shit happen this year in amateur triathlon as well. How many races have had deaths? Dangerous things that should have been prevented. Swims that shouldn't have happened. Swims that should have happened. Fucking motorbikes on course that shouldn't have been there. And we have the fucking power, right? And I'm like becoming a union activist or something, but I am so sick of amateurs complaining, going, I don't like this, I don't feel safe, and then fucking
Yeah.
fluffing the balls of Ironman by signing up for another fucking race. We
Yeah,
we
yeah.
need to start
When I was on
exerting
the
some fucking
train,
power.
when I was on the train from Geneva to Lyon earlier this year, I don't think I've ever felt as sick as when my phone lit up because of that motorbike that had taken out the amateur athlete in that race. And, I clicked on something that someone had sent me before I knew what had happened, and I saw something I wish I could take back having seen. And it was a real defining moment of the year for me because I
Yeah.
was like, it's gone too far. Your desire to pack the races and your desire to to prioritize commercial profit over the safety of the athletes you're meant to have a duty of care for, it's gone too far.
Mm,
Now, like you say, we've got the power. People can say, I'm not going to race under these conditions, but the problem is people will,
yeah.
because it's kind of the one and done thing. We haven't got a community of athletes that really focus on doing this year in, year out. the bigger percentage of the people that do Ironman are people that are going to do one and never going to do one again.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that really brought it home for me. And I remember having conversations with people that I like and respect within this sport. I was sitting on that train and we were chatting backwards and forwards with different people. I was talking to, journalists, other agents, people who were pros, and they were all saying, "Fucking, they fucked it this time. It's fucked. This is going to change things," and then it just goes away.
But it's not even just that, mate. It's the fact that we then got it followed up by the Ironman Cork thing, where we had not one, two people dying a swim that probably should, like, definitely should have been cancelled. It's just become this narrative of how many races this year has somebody died at. And again, I understand a lot of it is, and I don't want to rant about this anymore. I do feel like we've been on the negative side this year, and I'm sorry about that, listeners. But something's got to change. Something has to change
Yeah,
at some point, and not
yeah,
just
yeah.
this is an amateur and a pro thing. And I think there's different solutions to all for the pros. If you're very curious to hear what I think, second bonus episode that's coming out the week between Christmas and New Year's, you'll enjoy. Me and James actually have it's good because I think we don't agree on it, which is I actually think is a good approach to podcasting. But I very much am of the opinion, and again, I actually want to see the athletes unionize and not like the
No,
PTR.
no, no, no. I agree with you.
You just don't think it'll
I
work.
agree with you.
Yeah,
I'm just very pragmatic about
yeah,
how difficult that would be and how many pitfalls there are and how much of a waste of time it could be
mm,
for anybody that tries to make that happen because it could be undermined in a moment.
yeah. I know. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. All right. Anyway, enough of that. That's the year. The year there's been overall some incredible things. We've seen the sport move to it's faster than ever. A whole wave of that next generation is coming through. We're seeing the old guard leave. I want to give shout outs to athletes like Jan Frodeno and Sebastian Kienle, Jan van Berkel, amongst many others, but they're the main three that I can think of quickly off the top of my head that have announced their retirements this year. Uh, the sport is going to be like they have left the sport in a better position. Jan Frodeno and Sebastian Kienle, two of my favorites to ever do the sport. Uh, but that is the year. But let's move in because it is time, James Bale, for the inaugural Talking Triathlon Podcast Awards that used to be the MX Endurance Podcast Awards. But we have normally in the past we've opened up voting and stuff like that. We haven't. We worked out we were doing this a couple of days ago, so it's going to be a little bit more sporadic. But what we've done is we've got some topics or some categories of awards. We're going to have a discussion around them, and then we're going to. There's only the two of us this year, so we don't have the votes to sort of split the difference. So we have to. We cannot have a draw. If we cannot agree, one of us has to convince the other one, which is going to be interesting. But hang on, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 awards. 10 awards to give this year. And we are going to start with, I'm just going to do them at random, mate. I want to start with the what the fuck moment of the year in
All right.
triathlon. Because to me, there are a few what the fuck moments that happened this year that left me going, what the fuck is happening in triathlon? Some of them we've just spoken about a little bit, but just quickly, I mean, just name like let's just spitball. What are some of the what the fuck moments that you noticed this year?
When I was watching Super League and the team manager of Bahrain, MG, gave away the short shoot and didn't let Hayden have it. And then he forgot to put his shoes in the box and fucked him right over on that race. That was
Was
a
it?
true what the fuck moment because you had one job, bro.
That was a what the fuck moment. Another what the fuck moment of me that's a bit more lighthearted was Joe doing high rocks, mostly because Joe had told me that he wasn't doing high rocks, and now he's like obsessed with fucking high rocks, and I have to be settle down the fucking high rocks, chat mate. You're a pro triathlete. That was very much a what the fuck moment of the year for me.
What about Jan Frodeno, the GOAT, having a GOAT performance in the middle of one of the most impressive performances I've seen this year, something that absolutely fascinated me from start to finish, and I was thoroughly invested. But he forgot to take his swim skin off, managed to take it off at the transition line, but then didn't get a penalty for it.
Yeah, that was a what the fuck moment. Another one that I'm going to mention that's going to come up in another award was Joe Skipper taking the wrong course in Texas. I think that was a what the fuck. I was like, seriously, mate, the fuck are you doing? That's terrible. And
Yeah.
I think he went off course at another race this year as well, but that was a what the fuck moment as well. Yeah, that wasn't a good one.
The PTO, mate, the PTO saying they were going to announce all of their races and then just not really.
Yeah, that's left me scratch
With
again.
no real comms around it.
The
That's the what
mystery.
the fuck to me.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a
the
what the fuck
mystery of
moment.
like communicate to your people, even internally. Communicate to the journalists who are meant to be covering you so you can give people like us,
Yeah,
pundits of the sports, some confidence. So we're not just going, we don't fucking know either, mate, to be honest.
The other one, there's an athlete that's had a couple of what the fuck moments for me this year, and I think it's just inherently who he is as a person, which I love. But Sam Long, and it's mostly some of the videos that he's put out, where he put out a video talking about how he maybe consummated the birth of his child, or impregnated his now fiance the night before the race in St. George. That left me scratching my going, what the fuck? And then there was that video where he recorded it in his car talking about how he is in fact a good swimmer and he's been bullied for being a bad swimmer. That also left me going, what the fuck am I watching right now? So
Yeah,
they were a
yeah.
couple of what the fuck moments. But I think that's enough nominees, mate. Who do you think is what do you think was the what the fuck moment of the year?
For me, it goes with the first one I mentioned. You know,
Say it again, because I
Hayden
can't.
Wild at the Super League.
Yeah, that really was a what the
Because
fuck
it
moment.
because it had a real cost. It had a
Yeah,
cost to it,
exactly.
man.
In the
Not only
context.
a result cost, but a financial cost as well.
Yeah, big one. No, I
Yeah.
would again. I don't think we're not all going to do this all the awards. I don't think, but to me, that's probably that's the one that truly left me going, what the fuck? Like, what? And
Yeah.
again, I can understand. Like, I did the management. It's stressful. People think it's tense, mate. Like, and those. So as soon as you get the short shoot, the crew are there going, who are you giving it to? Who you giving it to? Who you giving? I had to tell them at one point. I was like, fuck off. Give me a second to think about it. Like, settle down. When do you need to know? So you understand the pressure, and I can also understand the thinking that went behind it, maximizing the points. But as I've said, that is an issue that Super League needs to sort because there's a conflict between the team and the individual. But yeah, that is a huge what the fuck moment for me this year, and I know that it's certainly left Hayden going, what the fuck?
So who gets the award? MG?
Yeah, MG or both of them.
It's in the post, mate.
They can share it. I'm seeing MG tomorrow, so I'll give it to him when I see him.
Yeah, yeah. Nice.
Yeah,
Nice
Hayden, there
work.
you go, mate. That's
What
probably one of your first talking triathlon.
what category are we going for next, old
Uh,
boy?
most outspoken athlete.
Okie dokie.
I've got
We can
three
do that.
obvious ones that come to mind for me. The first one is probably going to be no surprise, and he's probably my pick for the win, and it's mostly to do with what he's spoken about on this podcast. But it's Max Stapley. Max has exploded onto the scene this year, and he's a breath of fresh air for me. He reminds me a lot of Chris McCormack. He has that same willingness to say what people don't want to say, and maybe play the villain a little bit. But what I really respect or like about Max is that he talks it, but we saw him, but he's backed it up now. Like he's not just coming out saying, "Yeah, I'm going to fucking school you boys," and then he's half an hour behind. Max literally backed up his words on the weekend, but he's not just being vicious. Like everything he's saying, I think is based on fact and concern, and is intended to try to create change or be positive. So Max is to me, I mean, he's the only one. I think he's the winner, but there's some other people I think are worth mentioning as
And
well.
his willingness to sports quite such a ridiculous mustache as well.
Max doesn't have a mustache, does he?
Yeah, yes, he's got a little
Does he?
mustachy thing, hasn't he?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Maybe it's he's got that fair hair, so
weird
I've just not noticed.
blonde mustache.
Any others that you
Good
can
on him.
think of? Any other you'd like to mention?
Um, I I tend to always lump Joe in this category because I think Joe's quite good at just generally saying what comes into his head.
It's not always good, trust me, as his manager.
No, no, I don't. I know that, mate. I've got PTSD from this. But but yeah, I mean, you said you had a couple others, so throw them in there.
The ones at the very last minute, just because I saw was the Sky Monch, just because I mean she was quite outspoken in a good way on our podcast, but I seen that
Yeah,
she's coming out about the issue she had around being basically fat shamed by her previous coach. I think that's a very positive thing to talk about. Again, and
yeah, yeah,
just I love Sky, and any opportunity to mention Sky, I will. But the other one that I think is worth mentioning, and again, outspoken in a positive way, but it's also kind of outrageous that she had to speak out about it, but again, important was Emma Pallant-Brown, who started all
yeah.
those
Of course.
conversations around the period when somebody commented on one of her posts, and I think that was a really important. Like, it's disgusting that it had to be had, but it's important that it was had this year, and I think that's so. Like, it's not necessarily like outspoken in the sense that this is outrageous or anything, but I think it's something that needed to be verbalized. So,
Yeah, yeah, totally,
but to me, it's Max Stapley.
totally.
I think I'm gonna.
For you, it's Max. Yeah, I think, and we're not going to agree on everything, but I think because of the shit he got for what he said when we were interviewing him on the pod, when you were interviewing him on the podcast, um, it has to be that. It has to be him because, for me, we were part of that. Um, but I've got a lot of time for what Sky has put out. And I've also got a huge amount of time and respect for the way that Emma Brown handled that malicious prick who commented on her post, but also used it as a learning moment for a lot of people out there who maybe didn't comment but would have looked at it and thought a certain way. And you know,
I'm probably going to be
be better.
giving Emma an award later on, I think, because I think that it fits into another category. In fact, we can go to that category now. Is the triathlon non-racing moment of the year. And no surprise, the first thing I want to talk about is Emma Pallant Brown, with being this sort of spokesperson or bringing into the light talk around athletes, female athletes having a race on their period. And again, I don't want to, I don't know enough comfortably to sort of, I might get things wrong, but I think that was a really important moment this year. And again, I think that's definitely a nominee for me for non-racing triathlon or non-triathlon moment of the year. Kind of vague, don't even know what the category is, but that's definitely one for me. But there's a few other big ones in here that aren't positive at all.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to bring into that one Sam Laidlow and versus Rudy Von Berg Sr.
Yeah,
and the way Sam just shot himself in the dick
yeah.
for no apparent reason because nothing seems to have happened afterwards. Now, there might be things happening in the background, and if the less we know about it while it's happening, probably the better. But a strange set of events that wasn't to do with a race, but was more to do with a background conversation, series of conversations that were taking place, and Sam's desire to publicize that and drag it into the social media realm, which garnered him a weird selection of supporters in his comment section, but also a lot of detractors as well.
Yeah, well, you can't help but now watch every time there's a post. I mean, I saw the PTO put up something about Sam, and half the comments are just needles, syringes. And again, this is like, which I don't like that people are doing it, but also it's like he kind of made this for himself. I don't want to talk
Yeah.
about it too much. We spent a lot of time this year talking about it, but yeah, I think it definitely warrants it. And the other one is obviously Colin. Like that's that again, a huge negative, but certainly to me, a extremely significant non-racing or
Yeah, man.
non-triathlon-ish kind of moment for the year.
Uh, a triathlete testing positive for erythropoietin. It just stank of the bad old days to
Also,
me.
kind of a what the fuck moment, I guess, is how we
Yeah,
should
yeah,
have put
exactly.
it.
But also then
We're not
just the way
surprised.
he handled it, those
Mm,
posts afterwards, the way he went on a cycle trip, and it was all he made himself the victim.
yeah,
It just it's just icky to me. The whole thing was icky.
yeah, definitely. They're the only three ones for me, but
Who's your winner?
it's Emma Pallant Brown, just because I don't want to focus on the negatives. And I think that, yeah, like I said, I think it was a really important discussion. I think the obvious choice is probably Colin, but I don't want to keep going back to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
no, fuck that bloke. I am gonna actually put Sky Monch in this category as well
Okay.
because of her post today, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna back her for the win. And I'll
Now we have
argue
to.
to the death. I'll wrestle you for this one, mate.
Well, we have to, because we have to come up with a definite winner. So,
What Emma Pallant Brown did was fantastic, and I will fight for that until the day I die. But Sky Monch, I think her post today is very important and will impact a lot of people. And I think a lot of people have a psychological link with weight and improvement and weight and performance. And I think more pro athletes need to speak out about this. And
mm,
I think more pro athletes need to speak out about, and more coaches need to understand that it's not, it's, there's a, it's like the difference. It's like when you're on a time trial bike, and some coaches think the more dialed in you get, the faster you go. Whereas in reality, it's a curve. There's a point where you get so dialed in, you lose the power that you're putting out. You lose the ability to hold the aero position for that long, but you also, your power dips. So you need to find that absolute perfect balance where you're dialed in enough to get the aero gains, but you're still putting out the maximum power that you can. And that's how the human body works as well. It's not about losing as much weight as you possibly can and getting down to some preconceived idea of what the racing weight is. It's about finding what works for your body and your physiology. And I think that's a very important message to put out in the world.
well, as somebody who has
Not that
dealt
I'm
with,
saying Emma's isn't as important, but you
yeah.
know,
Well, again, I think I'll actually go over to your side of this one, because it is something that I have dealt with personally a lot. It's, I think, why it sort of it struck hit a nerve with me, because it is something that I've struggled with and dealt with and worked through and been exposed to, and like obviously people know lost a lot of weight, but yeah, that whole weight around racing thing is something that I've had many internal conversations, not very positive ones.
Mate,
And
I've been there. 2017, I lost so much weight in order to go fast that I went slower
yeah, same. I've done
and I
that.
got sick.
Yeah,
You
I've done
know,
that too.
I've been there. I look back at pictures of myself that season and I am gaunt,
Mm,
you know, and I remember sitting on a bus in Scotland before I did 70.3 Edinburgh, and the bus seat was hurting my ass because my sit bones were poking through and I had no fat between
mm,
me and the bone, and I was like, shit, fucking uncomfortable this bus. But in reality, it was what I'd done to my body. Then I had a shit race.
mm. Well, there you go, Sky Munch. You brought it, got it at the
Yeah.
last second. So there, you guys both sort of got two nominees. But yeah, again, I think it's extremely valid. The next one we're going to do, mate, is most exciting moment of the year. Now, again, there's a few that come to mind for me, but any that do you want to start with one?
For me,
Yep.
the single race that really captured me this year and made me excited, and I sat there and I was on the Talking Triathlon
This isn't race
WhatsApp
of the
group
year.
chat.
This is racing moment. Most exciting moment of the year, not race of the year.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say Jan Frodeno versus Kristian Blummenfelt.
Okay, cool. Again, we can have
Yeah,
multiple categories. That was exceptional. Was there a particular
yeah,
moment that you enjoyed, or like?
yeah. The moment that in that within that race, I was getting to it before
Okay,
you
sorry,
you
rudely interrupted
jumped on my
you.
balls. No, you're good. The moment where Magnus and Jan were on the bike together, and Magnus went, and Jan went with him, but then decided to just ease off. And I could see that fucker's mind working, mate. I
Mm,
could see that racing brain going, actually, no, hold up, motherfucker. I can ease off. And then, and then for him to just get to the run, Bloomer felt cramps and
oh
then he
yeah,
takes the win. So I
twice.
think that moment, that decision, that moment where he decided not to go with Ditlev is probably one of the best moments of the year for me.
I'm going to put one of the most exciting was that Matthias and Mika Nut sprint finish we saw recently, where Mika Nut I think tripped over at the just before the finish line. Like that was pretty
Yeah.
exciting. Again, probably it was an exciting moment. I didn't watch the race, but like if a snapshot moment from a race, I thought that was pretty epic. That was definitely another one for me.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what else have I got? I haven't got anything else listed for this, so
I
feel
got
free to empty
Yeah,
your
I've got a
brain.
few. Patrick Lang chasing down Sam Laidlow in Nice. I thought that was pretty fucking exciting. And again, being there on the ground, I
I've got
genuinely thought
loads
it.
listed. I was on the wrong
I
page.
tried to
Yeah.
tell you this earlier, and you like, "Oh, I'm doing the wrong. Fuck you, dickhead."
Yeah, yeah. Lang trying to chase down Sam Laidlow. That was fucking
Yeah, it's
gripping
exciting.
because
That
I
was really
thought there was a
exciting.
moment where I thought he was going to do it. I was doing the maths, but I was like, he ain't going to do it. But I thought he might do it because he was moving, wasn't he? And to watch that man run is a pleasure.
Absolutely. Other one for me is the Hayden Wild versus Leo Berger Neon. Again, we talked about it as the what the fuck moment, but like again, until it sort of was obviously wasn't, it was very exciting to see is Hayden going to be able to run down that gap.
Yeah.
That was a really exciting moment for me.
Danny's course record.
Yeah. World record.
Yeah, world record.
Breaking Chrissy's world record. Whole thing was
Fucking
exciting.
astounding. Fucking
Astounding.
astounding.
Astounding. Yeah, they're to me they're the most sort of exciting moments of the year. So what do you think what's your winner?
I mean, it's got to be the first one that I mentioned.
I agree.
Simply because for a bike geek like me, and also for a sort of a tactical brain, watching that take place and knowing that he'd made the decision to not go with Ditlev and to have people messaging me saying he can't go with Ditlev, it's over for him. And I was like, hold,
Yeah, don't what are you talking about?
I felt like I was involved in that
I was
moment.
personally offended when the commentators were saying something about Jan not having the bike power. I was like, the fuck are you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. Oh,
Respect
and
this
I, yeah,
man.
oh, well, yeah. To double down on that, the commentary at that race, I thought the quality of the commentary was really poor.
Mm.
Because I can't remember his name. What's his name?
I don't know who you're talking about.
The commentator. What was it? The
Jack?
one that I Yeah, Jack, yeah. I felt like his contribution to that race was pretty poor because he was talking about he was signing the death warrant of the race before events had transpired. So he was going, "Oh, the race is over. This is happening. This is happening. This is going to happen." He wasn't reacting to what was happening. He was predicting what was going to happen because of events,
Mm.
and it kind of it took that. it took the viewer out of going, well, well, this has happened. What could happen next? As opposed to, well, this will happen. And every prediction he made was wrong. And so not only had he dampened the the anticipation of the race while it was taking place, but he'd been fucking wrong about it. So I found that particularly frustrating.
I didn't like I think he did a lot of positive. I think there was a lot of good that he did, but yeah, that particular stuff
You're much
bothered
more
me.
diplomatic than I am
I,
on
I
these
try to be.
things.
I'm actually going to disagree. I think that there's a moment from that race for me, and it isn't like that moment was great, but it's the Christian cramp in the second time. That to me was just like this is exciting. And I think about the fact that then not long after we had Magnus walk off the course, and then like that to me was really, really exciting. So we're at a stalemate
Who
here.
was it that Christian tried to go with as well when he
Jason
passed him?
West. Jason West.
Yeah, yeah, because that was a fucking moment as well, where
Oh, is it
Christian was just
true
like,
actually?
"Fuck it."
Come, we have to give Christian an award, I think, here. We have
Yeah,
to give
yeah.
Christian an award. Come on, Christian, give it to Christian.
Oh, fuck it. Christian can have it for cramping twice and failing to go with Jason West, but
No,
trying to.
he went with Jason West. He
Yeah, but
did.
not for long.
No, the whole time.
Nah, he wasn't. He
He
wasn't with
got
him to
dropped
the end.
he got dropped just before the finish line. But he went with Jason for
Yeah,
kilometers.
all right, fine. Christian's got it.
Yeah, there
Christian
you go,
takes it.
Christian. We love you, mate. Three to go, mate. Oh, four to go. And I'm saving the big one for last, which is the Lionel Award for Chuck and Lionel. That's our last award. Oh, maybe sorry, another race of the year. There's a few. Race of the year. What's your race of the year this year? Nominees.
Um, you mean the event?
The race of the year. What is your your race of the year?
I
So
mean,
I've got
Danny's world record's up there.
yep. So Roth Challenge Roth
Um,
2023.
then obviously we've got the test event because it was beautiful,
Yeah, yeah.
and I've got an affinity for France, an
Yep.
affinity for Paris. I love that city. I love that country. Um, Milwaukee is up
Yep.
there because I think what we saw was a masterclass in the old school,
Hmm.
and I'm always here for that. Obviously, Kona was brilliant watching Lucy's domination.
Yep.
And I think Nice is worth a mention as well.
I'd also chuck in Toulouse, Super League Toulouse. I think that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
the best course in short course and carnage. Absolute fucking carnage in that race where we
yeah.
had, all the crashes. We had Leo and Hayden miss the mount line. Like just that was a race. I think it has to be Roth to me though. I think Challenge Roth has to be the race of the year because we had the two records fall. Danny did it in such style, and sort of cemented
No,
herself as. What's your pick?
it's Milwaukee. I
Okay,
loved it.
but
I loved it because we had such tension going into it. It was
mm,
the one time that Blumenfelt and Frodeno were going to be together racing. For Blumenfelt took off. People thought it was over, but the
God,
goat pulled him back.
again.
The old boy.
You're not going to have to work hard to convince me if something Jan Frodeno does gets an award. So I'm happy to go. Yeah, okay, I'll agree with Milwaukee. I think Toulouse is probably
Roth was amazing because of the outcome.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the
The
race
outcome
itself,
was
you make a good
tremendous.
point. Yeah,
But the actual race, I mean, I was invested in
but do you think
Milwaukee from the
so?
start to the finish, and I was glued to it.
Even the women's race, to be, and for no, I'll give it to you because even the women's race, we had Lucy Byron make the moves on the bike, and then we had that sort of four-way sprint finish for the lower positions on the podium.
Yeah, yeah.
Ash Jenner running it. Yeah, you're right. It's Milwaukee. That's the race of the year. I agree with that. Yeah, yeah. That's
There we go.
you, mate. I keep coming to your side. You're not coming to my side very often anymore. Female triathlete of the year. I mean,
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I think the women's field is much more exciting and balanced than the men's at the moment. I think we're seeing people line up for races, and there's a real uncertainty as to who's going to win and what's going to happen. Beth Potter obviously has had a hell of a year,
yep.
tremendous year, and will go into the Olympics as favorite without question. But that doesn't mean she's nailed on for a win because of the depth of the field on that on the women's side. Um, Daniela Ryf,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Fastest to ever do it. Yeah.
one of the hosts of Talking Triathlon had written her off, but then she
Many
went and did a
times.
world record.
Many
Yeah,
times. I think she's going to have to start paying us every time we write her off to because she seems to have the best performances afterwards. Uh, Lucy Charles Barclay, obviously, finally won that world title. I think she's definitely a nominee for me. Anne Haug, what a year. Didn't see her pick up the world title, but I just think in terms of a person who's had such presence at almost every race that they've lined up for,
mm.
Anne is up there for me.
Taylor
Uh,
Knibb.
Taylor Knibb. Yeah.
Taylor Knibb, just because of the variation in racing that she does.
Kate Woff as well for me, just because we saw Kate really had that breakthrough year one Super League, second place at WTCS. But to me, it's Lucy Charles. Lucy Charles is my female triathlete of the year, just because of that Kona victory and the way she did it, led from gun to finish. Uh, and again, I couldn't. Yeah, Lucy Charles is my female triathlete of the year. Just
Daniela
to
Ryf, mate,
just
for that
agree.
world record.
Point. No, I'm not going to give it to Daniela Ryf this time. Um, I think again,
But look, I think let me lay out my case,
okay,
and I
go on.
may well come over to your side. Don't get just because I'm going to lay my case out. But look, she'd been written off.
Hmm.
People were saying her best days were behind her. Lucy is not in that position. Lucy has still got many more years to come. No one's writing her off. Daniela Ryf, people were saying, yeah, she's an amazing athlete. She's had her time. And then she turns up at Roth, one of the biggest races in the world, and beats the world record.
Yep.
She takes Chrissy Wellington's long-standing world record off her. And I just think that's tremendous.
And she beat Chelsea Sodaro in the process. The only
Yeah,
counter I'll have is in terms of writing her off, she'd actually beat Ash Journal at Switzerland 70.3 previously, which means to me at least she wasn't a complete write-off at that point.
that
Uh,
is true. That is true.
Lucy Charles Barclay has gone second in Kona so many, what is it, four times, five times, something ridiculous like that, and not just to the same person every time. Uh, with the way that Anne Haug was running, Anne Haug was a favorite. The way Chelsea Sodaro performed last year was a favorite. Lucy had that injury, and we didn't know exactly where she was. So to me, she was a contender, but probably not going to be able to hold on. She does her thing in the swim. We had Taylor Knibb, who I think a lot of people thought would probably bridge up to her on the bike. She kept her away, and then she held on to run her fastest ever run split. We've seen the photos afterwards with the injury that she had to finally win the Ironman World Championships after so many attempts and so many times being the bridesmaid. Lucy Charles Barclay's female triathlete of the year.
Agreed.
There we
Fine.
go. Yes. Go on. Straight into it. Male triathlete of the year. And again, I think the list for me is a bit
uh, uh,
shorter.
there's only one answer, mate, on this one.
Yeah. Who's
Rico
yours?
Bogan.
I'll put him as a nominee. I'm not sure he's my male triathlete of the year. In terms of like what the fuck moments of the year, we probably should have put him winning 70.3 worlds. That was a what the fuck moment. I've got it. I'll just list them. How's that sound? Because I've got Rico Borgen, Sam Laidlow, Jan Frodeno, Sebastian Kienle, Max Newman, Kristian Blummenfelt, Leo Berger, and Magnus Ditlev. I think all of these guys have had some great performances. Nobody has dominated this year. Uh, who is your male triathlete of the year based on that? Because I know we disagree on this
Emotionally,
one. Yeah.
emotionally, Jan Frodeno,
Hmm.
just for that one performance. Um, and also Sebastian Kienle, because I just loved his swan song year. He hasn't had the results. It's not like he's gone out and had this amazing swan song of just picking off victories, but I just love what he's done. I love how he's gone about it. What about you?
They're my two picks as well. I mean,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of again, I know I'm biased, and hey, it's our podcast. We can do what the fuck we want. But I really feel like Jan Frodeno, I think we named the episode, is a graceful time. I think him beating Christian at that race in Milwaukee cemented him. To me, he was already the
yeah, yeah.
greatest of all time, but that to me was he has now beaten Kristian Blummenfelt. And forever, whenever we talk about it, he will have beaten Kristian Blummenfelt, uh,
But
cemented
also
him
the
as the
way
greatest
he
of all time.
styled it out in Nice as well.
Yeah.
People were saying, "Oh, is he going to win the race?" And when it became clear he wasn't going to win the race, he didn't just not win the race. He fucking styled it out. He jogged around. He was
Plus,
saying hello to people. He was
you also know with like the Oscars, when they'll give a person who's done like a lot of good stuff, they'll give them the award as a sort of like well done. Uh, like
Lifetime Achievement Award.
like Peter Jackson got the best director for Return of the King. Return of the King won all these awards. Probably wasn't the
Yeah,
best
or
film.
when they gave Scorsese the thing for his 2006 film with DiCaprio and
The Departed was the best movie
The
there.
Departed. Yeah, yeah.
But I'm giving it to Jan Frodeno, just again as well to acknowledge the career that he's had. But I think as well this year did a series of races. We know an athlete who always thinks he's going to win a race. We saw him sort of put that to the side and just race this year. But that Milwaukee performance, while not at big championship event was still probably it was our race of the year. So I think the fact that he won our favorite race of the year, the way that he did, beating Kristian in the process, the whole narrative, to me makes him our male triathlete of the year.
Yeah, without question. Without
Special shout
question.
out to Sebi as well. But here we go, mate. This is the big one. This is
And also he did promise me via message before that race that he would come on for an interview once he'd retired.
well, there we go.
So we are owed an interview with Jan Frodeno.
We'll have to get him on to present him the award. Um, last award, mate, the one that everybody wants, the one that everybody tunes in for, the one that everybody wants to send us hate mail for. It's my favorite award, and that is the Talking Triathlon Lionel Award for chucking a Lionel. For people who are not familiar with this award, it is the award for the unforced error or a triathlete who does something to derail their own performance, basically get in their own way. We named this after Lionel because at a particular point in his career, he did this a lot.
But he's not a nominee this year, is he?
I think that's probably the first year in the history of doing these awards that Lionel hasn't
Yeah.
been nominated for the Lionel Award. But who are your nominees for the Lionel Award for chucking a Lionel?
Bear with me a second. Joe Skipper and his endless explorations off pieces of terrain that aren't the actual course that he's meant to be on.
Joe, I think he's definitely a nominee this year for taking the wrong turn on not one but two races. I think that is a very, very fitting nomination for the Lionel Award for chucking a Lionel. I'm going to nominate Kristian Blummenfelt, and it is something that I really appreciate that he did. But when he tried to do the Olympic test event, Singapore PTO event, and 70.3 Worlds all in the same week, I love the attempt, but seriously, mate, we saw how well it paid off at 70.3 Worlds. That's a Lionel Award nominee for me for sure.
I'm going to put second nomination for MG for his
Yeah,
Bahrain no short shoot.
yeah,
Unforced error of the year, in my opinion.
that's a Lionel nominee. I'm going to put Nicole van der Kay and Alicia Beto for Toulouse, the two Bahrain Victorious teammates who crashed into each other on the course. That was a Lionel moment for me. It's a kind of different because they did it to each other, but I think because they're on a team, I'm going to allow that one to creep through as a Lionel Award nominee. Any others for you, or
Perfect.
are they the sort of
No, I think that's probably it. I mean, we racked our brains before we pressed record because we were trying to remember people that might have, shot themselves in the dick. I think Sam Laidlow deserves a Lionel Award, doesn't he, for his Instagram post rant?
that's a bit of a lot. Actually, that's a good one. That's a Lionel Award
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I'll allow that. In fact, that might be my winner, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's the winner, isn't it? Yeah, I just brought that out. Yeah, I think that I think we agree on that one.
I
There's
was
there's
gonna
the
t
winner.
To me it was Joe, but no, you're right. I think he really, again, horrible context and everything, and things are ongoing, and we're not commenting on that. But as a pure like, yeah, unforced or like, what are you doing?
Unforced error.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. Sam, you get our Lionel Award. It's very prestigious. You'll probably appreciate it actually. You've got a good, yeah, you sort of good sense of humor. But that is it. That are our podcast awards for this year, guys. Thank you. 2023 is a wrap. We will be back in 2024. Thank you everybody for listening. I know that it has been an interesting year because we rebranded the podcast this year. We've taken a few little breaks as we sort of got things in line. Everybody who's jumped on board since we rebranded, again, our downloads have doubled. Our subscribers are growing. It means the world to both of us.
Yeah,
Everybody's
we
jumped on
really appreciate it.
Patreon.
We
Thank you
and
so
we
much.
we we especially appreciate the patrons who are our best group of people in the world.
And I also want to give a special shout out to you, James Bell, because it has been a pleasure to do the podcast with you every year. But this year, I think, again, with the changes and stuff like that, mate, again, I really appreciate your flexibility. There's been times where you've stepped up to the plate where things have not gone right. Again, for people behind the scenes, a lot of sort of stuff has to go right for this to come out every week, and often it doesn't. So
Yeah.
Jimbo's really, thank you, mate, because I've really
Oh,
enjoyed doing
mate,
the podcast with you this year.
right
So
back at you, man. Right back at you. I think we both bear the burden of sometimes having to get up at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning to do an interview that someone else can't do. So,
yeah.
right back at you. It's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure. Well, guys, we'll be off for a few weeks. We'll be back the week starting the 8th of January with a first episode of 2024. We've got the Patreon episodes again. So if you want to keep the content going, head to patreon.com/talking triathlon. If you want to give us a Christmas gift, that's how you can do it. But James, if people want to find out more about Talking Triathlon, what do they need to do?
If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/talking triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, is it tford14 on Instagram, and I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. Find us across all social networks at Talking Triathlon on Instagram, at Talk Triathlon on Twitter, And if you join the Patreon group, you'll get access to the Facebook, you'll get access to the bonus episode, you'll get access to the WhatsApp group. We'll send you a link so you can join that and join us in a never-ending stream of triathlon banter. And if you are going to be starved of content over this Christmas period and you sign up to Patreon now, you will get one concise bonus episode per week for every week that we're away.
Plus all the other ones. So even if you just sign up for the
Plus
month
all
of
the other ones.
December.
You'll get access to the other ones as well. Yeah.
There you go. Jimbo, a pleasure. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, all that stuff. Guys, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope you guys stay safe, train, don't drink too much. Enjoy it. It's Christmas. Triathlon isn't that serious. Talk to you later.
Cheerio.